Have you ever stopped and wondered why some people reach the age of 90, 95, even 100, while others begin to slow down much earlier, sometimes in their late 60s or early 70s? It's a question that has puzzled families, doctors, and researchers for generations. And after decades of observing patients, one truth becomes very clear. It's not just about luck, and it's definitely not just about genetics. There is something deeper happening beneath the surface. The individuals who live the longest, the ones who remain mentally sharp, emotionally balanced, and physically active well into their later years, often share a silent advantage. Their bodies have managed to avoid a specific set of conditions that quietly shorten most lives after the age of 60. These are not loud, obvious threats. They build slowly, often without warning, and by the time they are detected, much of the damage has already been done. But here's the powerful part. If you've made it this far without them, your body may already be operating at a level most people never reach. In this video, we're going to explore 5 of the most life-limiting conditions, and more importantly, what it truly means if you've avoided them. Because understanding this could completely change how you see your own future. Let's begin with the condition that has ended more lives than almost anything else in modern history: heart disease. If you've reached your 60s or 70s without it, you've already crossed one of the biggest barriers standing between you and a long life. And that's not something small. The heart is not just another organ. It's the central engine of your entire body. Every cell depends on it. Every movement, every thought, every breath is powered by the rhythm it maintains. But what makes heart disease so dangerous is not how it strikes. It's how quietly it develops. Most people imagine it as something sudden, a heart attack that appears out of nowhere. But in reality, it's often the result of decades of slow, silent changes. Tiny layers of plaque begin forming inside the arteries, gradually narrowing the pathways that blood must travel. Blood pressure rises, sometimes without any noticeable symptoms. The heart begins to work harder, adapting at first, but eventually wearing down. This process can go unnoticed for years, even decades, until one day, the system can no longer keep up. Now here's what's remarkable. If your heart has remained strong into your later years, it tells a very powerful story about your body. It means your blood vessels are still flexible. Your circulation is still efficient. Your body has been managing stress, inflammation, and daily wear in a way that most people struggle to maintain. It reflects consistency more than perfection, because protecting the heart doesn't come from extreme actions. It comes from repeated, simple choices over time. Regular movement, even something as gentle as walking, keeps blood flowing and vessels elastic. Balanced nutrition prevents the buildup that silently clogs arteries. And perhaps most underestimated of all, emotional stability. Chronic stress releases hormones that slowly damage the cardiovascular system, while a calm, steady mindset allows the body to repair itself naturally. If you've avoided heart disease so far, it's not accidental. It's a signal. A sign that your body is still aligned, still responsive, and still capable of carrying you much further than you might think. Now let's move to something that doesn't always feel dangerous in the moment, but over time becomes one of the most destructive conditions the human body can face: diabetes. If you've reached this stage of life without it, what you have preserved is far more valuable than most people realize. You've protected your body's metabolic balance, a system so essential that when it begins to fail, it doesn't just affect one organ, it affects everything. Diabetes is often misunderstood as simply high blood sugar, but that definition barely scratches the surface. In reality, it is a slow, progressive breakdown of how your body processes energy. Every time you eat, your body is supposed to convert food into usable fuel. Insulin, a hormone produced by the pancreas, acts like a key, allowing sugar to enter your cells where it can be used. But when this system starts to weaken, the cells stop responding properly. Sugar begins to build up in the bloodstream instead of being used efficiently. And over time, that excess sugar quietly damages the very systems that keep you alive: your blood vessels, your nerves, your kidneys, your eyes, and even your brain. What makes diabetes especially dangerous is not how quickly it appears, but how slowly it takes control. It doesn't begin the day you're diagnosed. It often starts years, sometimes decades earlier, in subtle ways that most people ignore. Slight fatigue after meals, gradual weight gain, increased thirst, or dips in energy. These signals are easy to overlook. But beneath the surface, the body is already struggling to maintain balance. The bloodstream becomes thicker, circulation becomes less efficient, and organs begin to operate under stress. This is why diabetes is often linked to so many other serious conditions, including heart disease, stroke, and cognitive decline. It accelerates aging from the inside out. But if you've avoided it into your 60s, 70s, or beyond, it tells us something incredibly important. Your body still knows how to regulate itself. Your cells are still responding the way they were designed to. Your internal systems are still communicating clearly and effectively. And that level of stability doesn't come from extreme discipline. It comes from awareness and consistency. The people who remain free of diabetes later in life often follow simple, sustainable habits without even realizing how powerful they are. They don't overwhelm their bodies with excess sugar or heavily processed foods. They eat in a way that feels natural, stopping when satisfied, not when completely full. They stay active, not necessarily through intense workouts, but through daily movement, walking, working, staying engaged with life. These patterns keep insulin levels stable and prevent the kind of metabolic overload that leads to disease. But beyond food and activity, there's another layer that often goes unnoticed: rhythm. The body thrives on consistency. Regular sleep, balanced meals, hydration, and stress management all play a role in keeping blood sugar levels steady. When that rhythm is disrupted repeatedly over time, the system begins to break down. If you're someone who has made it this far without diabetes, it means your body is still working with you, not against you. And that partnership is something worth protecting every single day. Because once metabolic balance is lost, it becomes much harder to restore. But when it's maintained, it acts as a shield, protecting not just your energy levels, but your long-term health, your mental clarity, and your independence as you age. The absence of diabetes is not just the absence of disease. It is the presence of harmony within your body. And that harmony is one of the strongest foundations you can have for a long, active, and fulfilling life. Now let's talk about a condition that can change everything in a single moment: stroke and circulatory disease. Unlike many other health issues that develop gradually and give you time to adjust, a stroke often arrives without warning. One moment, everything feels normal, and the next, something essential is gone. The ability to speak clearly, to move freely, to remember, to function independently. These are things we rarely think about losing until they are suddenly taken away. And that's what makes this condition so deeply impactful. But here's the important part. If you've reached this stage of life without experiencing a stroke, a mini-stroke, or any major circulatory event, your body has already crossed one of the most dangerous thresholds of aging. That is not something to overlook. It tells a powerful story about the condition of your blood vessels, your blood pressure, and the efficiency of your entire circulatory system. A stroke occurs when blood flow to a part of the brain is interrupted. This can happen in two main ways. Either a clot blocks a vessel, preventing oxygen from reaching brain tissue, or a weakened artery ruptures, causing bleeding within the brain. In both cases, the result is the same. Brain cells begin to die within minutes. And because the brain controls every function in your body, the consequences can be life-altering. But what many people don't realize is that strokes rarely happen without warning signs along the way. The groundwork is often laid over many years through high blood pressure, poor circulation, inflammation, and gradual damage to the blood vessels. These changes don't always produce obvious symptoms. In fact, many people feel completely fine until the moment something goes wrong. That's why stroke is often referred to as a silent threat. It builds quietly, just like many of the other conditions we've discussed. So if your body has managed to avoid this, it means something within you is still functioning at a high level. Your arteries are still able to expand and contract properly. Your blood is still flowing smoothly, delivering oxygen and nutrients where they're needed most. Your heart and your brain are still working in sync, maintaining a balance that becomes harder to preserve with age. And this kind of internal coordination doesn't happen by accident. It reflects years of maintaining stability, whether through lifestyle, awareness, or simply avoiding the habits that slowly damage the vascular system. Consistent movement plays a major role here. Even light physical activity helps keep blood flowing and prevent stagnation. Hydration supports circulation by keeping the blood from becoming too thick. And managing blood pressure, whether naturally or with medical support, is one of the most important protective factors against stroke. But there's another dimension that often gets overlooked: and that is the impact of emotional and mental stress on circulation. Chronic stress has a direct effect on blood vessels. It causes them to constrict, raises blood pressure, and increases inflammation throughout the body. Over time, this creates the perfect conditions for damage to occur. On the other hand, emotional balance, learning how to release tension, how to stay calm under pressure, how to avoid carrying stress for long periods, has a measurable effect on vascular health. It allows the body to recover, to repair, and to maintain flexibility in the systems that matter most. If you've avoided stroke into your later years, it may very well be because your body has found ways to stay in that balanced state more often than not. What's also fascinating is how closely circulation is tied to the overall quality of aging. People with strong, efficient blood flow tend to experience a different kind of aging process. Their minds remain clearer. Their energy levels stay more stable. Their recovery after physical or mental exertion is faster. Even their skin and muscle tone often reflect the benefits of consistent oxygen delivery. This isn't about appearance, it's about function. When your circulatory system is working well, every part of your body benefits. So avoiding stroke isn't just about avoiding a single event. It's about maintaining an entire network that supports your life on every level. And if that network is still strong today, then your path forward is not just longer, it's stronger, more stable, and filled with far more potential than you might have imagined. Now let's move to something that many people think about, often quietly, sometimes with fear: cancer. It's one of the most talked about diseases in the world, and yet for many, it still feels unpredictable and uncontrollable. But here's something important that doesn't get said enough. If you've reached your 60s, 70s, or beyond without a cancer diagnosis, your body has already demonstrated something extraordinary. It has maintained a level of internal control that becomes increasingly difficult to preserve with age. Because cancer, at its core, is not just a single disease. It's a breakdown in the system that regulates how your cells grow, divide, and repair themselves. Every day, your body produces millions of new cells, and every day, small errors occur in that process. That's normal. But what keeps those errors from turning into something dangerous is your body's ability to detect and eliminate abnormal cells before they can multiply. This is where your immune system plays a critical role. It acts as a constant surveillance network, identifying irregularities and responding before they become a threat. In younger years, this system operates at a very high level. But as time passes, its efficiency can begin to decline. That's why the risk of cancer tends to increase with age. However, if your body has continued to manage this process effectively into later life, it means those protective mechanisms are still active. Your immune system is still alert. Your cells are still following their natural rhythm. Your internal environment is still balanced in a way that discourages uncontrolled growth. And that balance is not random. It is influenced by a combination of factors: your lifestyle, your environment, your stress levels, and the daily choices you've made over time. One of the most underestimated influences on cancer risk is chronic inflammation. When the body is constantly exposed to stress, whether physical, emotional, or environmental, it can enter a prolonged state of low-level inflammation. Over time, this creates conditions that make it easier for abnormal cells to survive and multiply. On the other hand, when the body is supported with proper nutrition, adequate rest, and emotional stability, it is far more capable of maintaining a healthy internal environment. Diet plays a significant role here. Foods rich in antioxidants, such as fruits, vegetables, and natural plant-based compounds, help protect cells from damage. Avoiding harmful substances like tobacco, excessive alcohol, and unnecessary toxins reduces the burden on your body's defense systems. Regular screenings also make a difference, not because they prevent cancer directly, but because they allow for early detection when treatment is far more effective. But beyond the physical factors, there is also a psychological dimension that is often overlooked. Long-term emotional stress, unresolved anger, and persistent negativity can have measurable effects on immune function. They may not cause disease on their own, but they can weaken the systems that are designed to protect you. In contrast, emotional resilience, the ability to stay grounded, to recover from challenges, to maintain a sense of calm, supports the body in ways that are both subtle and powerful. People who age well often share this trait. They don't allow stress to take permanent hold. They find ways to release it, to move forward, to stay connected to a sense of purpose. If you've avoided cancer up to this point in your life, it is not something to dismiss as simple luck. It is a reflection of systems within your body that are still functioning in harmony. Your cells are still communicating effectively. Your immune defenses are still active. Your body is still capable of identifying and correcting small problems before they become serious ones. That level of internal coordination is one of the strongest indicators of long-term health. And while nothing can guarantee that this will never change, what you do from this point forward still matters. Supporting your body with clean nutrition, regular activity, quality sleep, and a stable mental state can help maintain that balance for years to come. The absence of cancer is not just the absence of illness. It is evidence of resilience at the deepest biological level. It means your body has continued to do one of the hardest jobs it has, day after day, without recognition. And if it has done that this well for this long, then it still has the potential to carry you much further. Now let's turn to something that many people rarely think about, until it becomes difficult to ignore: your lungs. Breathing is so automatic, so constant, that it almost disappears into the background of daily life. You don't have to remind yourself to do it. You don't have to plan it. It simply happens, moment after moment, keeping you alive without asking for attention. But that's exactly why lung health is often underestimated. Because when something works quietly in the background, we tend to assume it will always be there. The reality, however, is very different. The lungs are delicate, highly responsive organs, and over time, they are exposed to everything you inhale: dust, pollution, chemicals, infections, and in many cases, the long-term effects of smoking or secondhand smoke. And yet, despite all of that, if you've reached your later years without chronic lung disease, without conditions like chronic bronchitis, emphysema, or persistent breathing difficulties, it tells us something incredibly important about your body. It means your respiratory system has maintained its strength, its flexibility, and its ability to deliver oxygen efficiently to every part of your body. Oxygen is not just something you breathe. It is the foundation of energy production at the cellular level. Every organ in your body depends on it. Your brain needs it to think clearly. Your heart needs it to maintain rhythm and strength. Your muscles rely on it for movement and endurance. When the lungs begin to weaken, this entire system starts to slow down. People may notice fatigue, shortness of breath, reduced stamina, or difficulty recovering from even mild activity. But what makes chronic lung disease particularly challenging is that it often develops gradually. Small changes in breathing patterns may go unnoticed at first. A slight cough, a feeling of tightness in the chest, a reduced ability to take deep breaths. These can be easy to ignore. But over time, as lung tissue becomes less elastic and airways become inflamed or obstructed, the body has to work harder just to maintain basic function. And once that decline begins, it can be difficult to reverse. So if your breathing is still steady, if you can walk without feeling winded, if you can take a full, deep breath without discomfort, your body is already showing signs of resilience that many people lose with age. Your lungs are still expanding and contracting the way they were designed to. The tiny air sacs responsible for oxygen exchange are still functioning effectively. Your body is still receiving the oxygen it needs to support every system it depends on. And just like with the other conditions we've discussed, this doesn't happen by accident. It reflects a pattern of habits and environmental factors that have supported your respiratory health over time. Regular movement plays a key role here. Physical activity encourages deeper breathing, which helps keep the lungs fully engaged and prevents stagnation in the lower regions where air can become trapped. Even simple activities like walking outdoors can have a significant impact. Clean air, when available, supports lung function by reducing exposure to irritants. Staying hydrated helps maintain the thin layer of moisture that lines the airways, making it easier for the lungs to clear out particles and defend against infection. And nutrition also contributes. Foods rich in antioxidants help protect lung tissue from oxidative damage caused by environmental stressors. There's also a structural aspect to breathing that many people overlook. Posture matters. When you sit or stand with your chest compressed, your lungs have less room to expand. Over time, this can limit breathing capacity. But when you maintain an open posture, shoulders relaxed, chest lifted, you allow your lungs to function more freely. Even taking a few intentional deep breaths throughout the day can help maintain flexibility in the muscles that support respiration. These are small adjustments, but they create long-term benefits. If you've avoided chronic lung disease up to this point, it means your body still has access to one of its most vital resources, efficient oxygen delivery. And that single factor influences everything else. Strong lungs reduce the strain on your heart. They support brain function, improve sleep quality, and enhance your body's ability to repair itself. The absence of respiratory disease is not just a sign of healthy lungs. It's a sign of a system that is still working together in balance. And if that balance is still present, then your capacity to remain active, independent, and engaged with life is far greater than most people realize. Now let's bring everything together in a way that truly matters to you. If you've reached this stage of life without heart disease, without diabetes, without stroke, without cancer, and without chronic lung disease, then your body is already telling you something most people never get to hear. You have built a foundation for longevity. Not by chance, not by accident, but through years of internal balance that has quietly worked in your favor. These conditions we've talked about, they are not random events. They are often the result of patterns that develop over time. And the fact that your body has managed to avoid them means those patterns, whether consciously or unconsciously, have supported your health rather than undermined it. That is something rare. And more importantly, it is something valuable. Because what this really represents is not just the absence of disease, it is the presence of resilience. Your organs are still communicating effectively. Your circulation is still supporting your brain and your body. Your metabolism is still maintaining balance. Your immune system is still responding the way it was designed to. And your lungs are still delivering the oxygen that fuels every part of you. When all of these systems are working together, even after decades of wear and tear, it creates something powerful. It creates potential. The potential not just to live longer, but to live better. To stay active, to stay independent, to remain connected to the things and people that give your life meaning. But here's the part that matters most moving forward. None of this is guaranteed to continue on its own. The same way these systems were supported over time, they must continue to be supported. Because aging is not something that happens all at once. It is a process that unfolds daily, shaped by small decisions that may not seem important in the moment, but over time, define your trajectory. What you eat, how you move, how you rest, how you respond to stress. These are not minor details. They are the inputs that your body uses to determine how well it can continue to function. And the good news is, if you've made it this far in good health, it means you already understand more than you think. Your body has been following a rhythm that works. Your job now is not to reinvent everything. It's to protect and maintain what you've built. The people who live the longest, the ones who reach 90, 100 or beyond, often share a very specific mindset. They don't chase youth. They don't try to fight aging as if it's something to defeat. Instead, they learn to work with their bodies. They respect its signals. They adapt when needed. They stay curious. They stay engaged. And they remain connected to a sense of purpose. They continue to move, not necessarily with intensity, but with consistency. They eat in a way that supports their energy rather than draining it. They allow themselves to rest when needed, and they don't carry stress longer than they have to. These are not extreme strategies. They are sustainable patterns. And over time, those patterns become the difference between simply aging and aging well. There is also something deeply important about perspective. The way you see your own aging process has a direct impact on how you experience it. If you see it as decline, your behavior often follows that belief. But if you see it as a stage of life that still holds value, growth, and opportunity, you begin to act differently. You take better care of yourself. You stay more engaged. You look for ways to continue contributing, learning, and connecting. And that mindset feeds back into your physical health in ways that are both subtle and powerful. Because the body and the mind are not separate systems, they influence each other constantly. So if you're here today and you recognize yourself in what we've discussed, if you've avoided these major conditions, then take a moment to acknowledge what that means. You are not starting from zero. You are already ahead. You have something worth protecting. And the path in front of you is not closed, it is open. But it requires intention. It requires awareness. It requires the willingness to continue making choices that support your well-being, even when it would be easier not to. Keep your body active. Keep your mind engaged. Keep your environment as supportive as possible. Stay connected to people who bring value to your life. And most importantly, maintain a sense of balance. Because longevity is not just about adding years to your life, it's about adding life to your years. It's about being able to wake up with energy, to move without limitation, to think clearly, and to experience the world around you with presence and appreciation. Thank you for spending this time here. If something in this message stayed with you, carry it forward. Reflect on it. Apply it in whatever way feels meaningful to you. And if you found value in this, share it with someone who might benefit from hearing it as well. Because sometimes, the smallest piece of awareness can create the biggest shift over time.